Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Desatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukham karoti vachalam pangum langaite gini. Yat kripa tamham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarine. Hare Krishna. So today we'll try to just check the same verses little bit in detail based on Srila Prabhupada's purport actually, because there are so many things that Srila Prabhupada has mentioned in this purport. So we'll just read the translation once again. In the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by pure mind and to relish and realize the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth. And upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such position, one is never shaken even midst of the greatest difficulty. This indeed is the freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. So here, the main discussion now Krishna is giving about the state of samadhi. Right? So samadhi actually in general, if we see, means focused or pinpointed, focused on something. Okay. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada also gives two types of samadhi. Sampragyat samadhi, asampragyat samadhi. So sampragyat samadhi is a type in which there is object of focus. Okay, so it can be external or it can be internal. So external objects means like we focus on something, some deity or some flower, something we focus, and because we focus on that object, our mind completely absorbed in it. This is one type of sampragyata samadhi. The other type of sampragyata samadhi is savichar samadhi, which is when there is no external object, but internally we focus on object. So like sometimes we focus on a book that we read or content of the book or some memory, and we get absorbed in that. So this state is sampragyata samadhi, where we have some object of focusing. So asampragyata samadhi is what? When there is no object. Okay, so that is what this verse is explaining. Okay, the verse Krishna is telling to Arjuna 20 to 23 is this. So if we see, uh, so our soul, okay, or our consciousness, how we understand our consciousness, we say where the consciousness goes, the energy flows, right? So how to understand this? So for example, um, I'm sitting here now, okay, in Japan, for example, in Tokyo. But suddenly I get phone call from my family in India, for example. So I start talking to with my family, and my relatives and my mother starts talking about one of our neighbor. Okay, oh, that neighbor's marriage was there. And do you remember that hall that we have in front of our house? The red wall, the entrance is very small. So she explains, do you remember this? So when I am listening on the phone and I know that place, so my consciousness, though I am sitting here in Japan, my consciousness directly goes into India and the place that my mother is explaining, because I know that place. And then, though I am talking on the phone, I can see that red wall, that small door in front of our house, the neighbor's face. So my consciousness is now completely focused there, whatever I'm discussing with my mother. Okay. During this phone call, if suddenly somebody in my office or in my house calls my name, okay, so I was focusing on that, all the talks, and suddenly somebody called me here. So my consciousness from the phone now directly goes to the person who is sitting in front of me and he's calling me. So I ask him what happened. So now my consciousness will go to that person. What happened? I will try to listen to him. Okay, so what has changed in this is our consciousness or our attention. So it was on the phone and then it was on the person. So if I try to listen to that person and also talk on the phone, then I cannot focus or my attention is disturbed. Then I cannot focus on the person who is talking or the person who is on the phone. So then I get confused who is talking what. So I say, okay, only one person talk at a time so that I can attend or I can focus. Right. So this way, why this example? This is way our consciousness is directed through our mind. So when we are in samadhi or sampragya samadhi, what Krishna is telling here, Krishna tells that in this samadhi, one's mind's mental activities are completely stopped. Hmm. So by practice of yoga, so our consciousness through mind, it goes on to different objects around us or in our thoughts. So Krishna is telling in the verses before this that you control the mind and all the desires that are coming from the mind and steady the mind. And in that state, you focus on the transcendental self. Right. So what is that transcendental self is? When we stop the mind's mental activities completely. So there is no desire coming from the mind. So in that state, my consciousness is not going outwards to any material thing around me through my mind. Okay. So it completely stops. So that is asampragyat samadhi. That is what Krishna is explaining here. So when the mind completely stops, then how we will realize ourselves? And then we realize ourselves through the transcendental senses, through the Paramatma. So Srila Prabhupada, the shloka is mentioning this. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by pure mind and release and rejoice in the self. So when all the external activities are stopped, the mind is stopped, and then only active thing. Yeah, so when the mind stops, so the consciousness also stops. It cannot go anywhere, right? Because we are not focusing on anything. So then mind stops, consciousness also stops. But the super soul is active at that stage. So when the consciousness is stopped, then the super soul will direct us, uh, through the light on the self. And then that situation, the pure mind and the pure transcendental consciousness will be active. So in this joy state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness realized through transcendental senses. So that is the word used here is buddhi. uh, the Grahyam in Grahyamati Indriya in the 21st verse. So go through this transcendental uh, buddhi or intelligence, we completely focus on the spiritual thing, and through that we get the happiness. And when we get that happiness, we don't want to come out of that happiness, because then uh, we are in the different realm altogether, and then we feel the completeness. uh, so that's why the 22nd verse said, Yam labdha chaparam labham manyate na adhikam tada. So once we go to that state of spiritual or transcendental happiness, then we think there is nothing more than this to be there. And yasmin stito na dukkhena Guru Napi Vichalalite. So once you are established in that state, then that is the truth that we understand that by from the super soul. And then we say that we don't want anything more from this. And at that is what Krishna is telling. Tam vid tam vidya dukha samyoga viyogam yoga samhidam. That is the freedom from all miseries that arise from the material contact. So Krishna is telling that through this Ashtanga yoga practice, you have to focus completely on the transcendental self. So samadhi, that is what samadhi is. So mind stops, consciousness stops, and then the super soul is realized. The super soul gives the transcendental intelligence, and through that we experience the bliss. So that is the stage of samadhi. That is what Krishna is explaining. So Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport that this is the goal of the yoga. Until this goal is achieved, the yoga practice is not complete. And that's why Srila Prabhupada says that if we are just focusing on the bodily exercises and all these things, that is not the Ashtanga Yoga or Hatha Yoga. That is just Hatha Yoga, the first four steps of the yoga practice: Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama. So you are trying to regulate your body. That's the only stage. But the goal is this stage of Samadhi, where we want this, the yogis tries to go and realize the Paramatma. So it's not that this stage is achieved easily. It takes time, lot of time to reach to this stage, because to stop the mind is itself is a very difficult task. Uh, so then Srila Prabhupada at the end of the purport he explains that, but the devotee is in different state. Devotee is not trying to stop the mind or consciousness. He's trying to utilize the mind to engage in the service of Krishna. So 24 hours you are only thinking of Krishna. So we saw that Sampragyata Samadhi is the thing, one of the thing that is the samadhi type of samadhi in which there is object on which we focus. So in this material world also there are objects like the deity in the temple. If there is objects, it's a, so we focus on that, then you can experience the spiritual things. So similarly, we focus our mind always on Krishna or his service or his devotees. So by that focus, we attain a samadhi or complete attention or one pointed attention as explained in the second and third chapter. So in that one point attention on Krishna and his service and keeping all our activities around that, that is also state of samadhi where we focus on Krishna and we work only for Krishna. And through that also we get the happiness. And Srila Prabhupada is telling that in the uh, purport that this process of doing bhakti yoga is also very easy, or it is very practical, because as long as we have body, we cannot stop the body. uh, we have to act, we have to do something when we have the body. The soul or the mind can is very restless, so we have to eat or we have to sleep, we have to do something, with some actions are required with the body. And so it is very difficult to do this yoga practice. So Srila Prabhupada saying that's why karma yoga or bhakti yoga is very practical. It's not easy, but it's very practical, because you use your mind, you use your body, you use your buddhi, everything in the service, and that way you become engaged. Mm. And through that, then we can achieve the perfection that is explained in this shloka through the bhakti yoga also. The goal of this yoga and the bhakti yoga is going to the same, to attain the state of samadhi where you experience the transcendental bliss. So we took this verse today also to just go into a little bit deep about what exactly Krishna is trying to tell, and why this yoga that Krishna is telling. Srila Prabhupada says that's not only the yoga position or asanas that are we think that yoga is. So the real yoga is this samadhi, and that is the goal. And so, if somebody says that you do this asana or you do this, and then you will be in samadhi, then it's not the complete information of yoga. That's why Srila Prabhupada is always saying, and don't go into these external things. Actual yoga is all completely internal, that happens with the soul and the super soul and the transcendental thing. So I think it is so this covers the this purpose that we were not able to discuss yesterday. Mm. So Chitta Shakti is also Srila Prabhupada mentions this. This is what the example I gave, that when the consciousness is on the material things, it's going outside, it's Chitta. But when it's going inside, it's Chitta, Chetana that we say. So where our conscious, that's why we say wherever the consciousness goes, energy flows. That means all our body and energy, mind energy, everything goes into that. That's why everybody says always focus on the positive things, so that you don't get very much negative about your life or your happenings. Uh, so that's why the consciousness should be on spiritual things to have the spiritual realizations. So I think we will. Like tomorrow we'll take the next verse, because this attaining this stage of yoga is also not easy. It's not that in one lifetime it will be possible to stop the mind and its activities and consciousness. So it also, it's not a simple thing. So Krishna will explain more details how this can be done from in the next verses, so that the yogi who is trying to do this practice of dhyana yoga, he is not demotivated. Arjuna should not be get demotivated. Oh, if I choose this option, then I will not succeed. No, so Krishna will tell how you can do that. So that we'll see more details in the next verse. Thank you very much. So I hope it helps a little bit to understand the purport and depth of this shloka, and for depth of the purport actually of Prabhupada. Thank you very much. So any other points or any other um, details that we should discuss more, then please share, because there may be points that I missed or that's are not clear. So yeah, we can have some more time today or tomorrow or sometime to discuss more. Please let us know. Thank you very much. Okay, I hope it helped. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So let's see the next verse. How Krishna advises the yogi to attain that state of samadhi. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much,
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.